And then I remember people saying rumors about me where I'm like, where did they get that from? Hi guys, my name is Laura Maluhi and welcome back to another episode of In Harmony. Today we're talking all things guarding your heart and being conscious over the media that you consume. Let me explain. Not everyone, not every person, not everything is in line or in harmony with the place that God wants you to go. And guess what? You, my friends, have the ability to be selective about the people and the media that you digest. This is not just important, but incredibly important because your heart is something that you've had with you since you were a little girl or boy. Since you were barely born and came into this earth, God gave you a beautiful heart that had dreams, feelings, likes, dislikes, hopes, passions, love, and it's an incredible treasure and an incredible gift that God has given us. So we need to protect that gift at all costs. How things enter into our heart is through something called our ear gates and our eye gates. The things that you listen to, let's say that you're at the office or you're just hanging out with your friends and they start talking about gossip, maybe they start talking about negativity, maybe they start talking about things that they've seen on the news. We think, oh, it's okay, it's just words. I'm not actually doing anything. I'm just listening. You might feel that way, but about your conscious mind, but your subconscious mind is always listening. Your subconscious mind is always taking things in and processing that data. So when you hear gossip, when you hear negativity, when you say people saying bad things about other people, your ear gate is allowing that negativity to enter into your heart. The same with your eyes. If you are watching the news, or let's say you're like me and sometimes you're scrolling on Instagram and you see these things where you're like, how did this pop up? Like, I never followed this person. I don't think I did. And why are they posting like stuff like this? It's okay to laugh about it, but we have to take it seriously that those images and that media is entering into our eye gates that eventually is entering into our hearts. But don't take my word for it. In Proverbs 4:23 in the New Living Translation, it says, "Guard your heart above all else, for it determines the course of your life." Historians believe this was written by Solomon, who was the wisest man who ever lived. And if he's telling us to guard our heart above all else, he didn't just say, guard your heart if you feel it, guard your heart if you can. He's saying above all else, you have to guard your heart. There is a reason for that because our heart is the life spring of everything else that happens in our life. Our heart is a reflection of our spirit. And if we have a bad heart, that's going to seep into our family, our friends, our relationships, our loved ones, our work, our career. It's not going to be cute, people. It's going to be a big mess. So above all else, guard your heart. And something that maybe nobody told you, and that took me some time to realize too, is just because somebody calls you, just because somebody sends you a DM, just because somebody, let's say a friend from high school or somebody asks you to hang out or asks you on a date, doesn't mean that you have to say yes. You have to guard your time. You have to guard your peace and you have to guard your heart above all else at all costs, because guess what? Nobody, my friend, is going to do that for you. It's up to you to do that. So if somebody that you don't actually enjoy hanging out with asks you to hang out, you don't have to be mean about it, but you also don't have to feel obligated to say yes. You have to protect your peace. You have to protect your heart because nobody else is going to do that for you. One of the biggest secrets of success is to not be reactive, but to be proactive. In every area of your life, what can you do right now to be proactive instead of reactive? Let me explain. If you have a problem, let's say, sure, we'll go there, with lust and pornography, you can't just be, okay, I'm going to try to stop watching that. I'm going to abstain from that. Because things don't just happen. You and I know that. We have to put energy and thought and care into things in order for things to change in our life. So if you know that that's your goal, you have to be proactive, which means don't listen to that music that's lustful. Don't follow those people on Instagram who are always just posting pictures and videos of their bodies. If that's what they want to do, that's great. But you have a goal right now to abstain from that. So you need to be proactive and unfollow those people. Do whatever you got to do. Take those links off of your computer. Whatever you have to do, you have to be proactive. Because if you're expecting to stop being lustful, stop with that porn addiction, and for this to happen, I promise you, I'm going to save you a lot of time. It's not just going to happen. You have to be proactive, not reactive to the media that the world sends you. Romans 12 verse 2 says, in the ESV version, says, do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is the will of God, what is good and acceptable and perfect. If we live a life of reaction, we are going to constantly be conformed by this world. In order for us to have a sound mind, in order for us to be transformed by the renewal of our mind, we have to take control of the things that we're allowing into our eye gates and our ear gates. The things that enter into our heart, we have to protect our heart at all costs. I have an embarrassing story to share. When I was little, I want to say maybe like, I don't know when you start walking and running, like 2 or 3 years old. I think I was 2. I had a second or third cousin that was visiting from Quien sabe qué. My parents and my family tease me because they tell me the story that she was visiting. Her name's Noor. And, she was playing and she was playing with my sister because her and my sister were closer in age. And, I was trying to play with like the older kids. So Noor, as a normal person would when they're at a guest house, she was hungry and she wanted something to eat. So she would like just walk up and go to our pantry. And as a kid, as a child, I took that wildly serious. So I guess it was a territorial thing. I really don't know what it was. But I like wouldn't let her take things from the pantry. Like if she would be walking to the pantry, I've had a sweet tooth since I was super little. So if she was trying to go to the pantry to get like cookies or chocolates or anything a normal kid would consume, I would literally like block the pantry and be like, no, this is like not for you. This is for the family. I don't know what was wrong with me. I was a horrible, horrible kid. And I remember sometimes she would even like sneak around me. Like when I was, let's say, like playing with my brother or doing something, she would go like behind me to go and get something from the pantry. And I would like run when I would hear it and I would chase after her. I would chase after her to be like, no, like that's not for you. This is art. Like it's just, okay. So whatever, no matter how embarrassing that story is, and if you have a child like that, seek help. That's not normal. But the reason I share that story is because you and I have to be that fervently aggressive with our hearts. We have to guard it at all costs. We have to chase out the devil and negative thoughts and negativity and bad practices and gossip from our life, because it's entering into our hearts can be detrimental to our life. We have to have that aggression and that fervent to keep the negativity out of our life. So protect your heart the way I protected my pantry when I was 2 or 3 years old. I have a note here saying that we have to protect our heart because the heart is the essence of who we are. It's your core being. And I really don't want to share this story either. But there's something to be said about protecting our heart because of the law of magnetism. Let me explain. When I was in, this is a very personal story, so I might not go into all the details. But when I was in college, I had to go to San Antonio. I had to go out of town for college, and I was playing soccer at my university. And I didn't know anybody at my school. I maybe knew one girl, and we didn't really hang out much. So I was there by myself. A lot of the girls on my soccer team knew each other, and they were friends, or maybe they played together when they were younger, or they saw each other in like those big tournaments. Whatever it was, I knew basically nobody. And I had a roommate / teammate who had, I would definitely say in the nicest way, she didn't see things in a positive light a lot. A lot of times during practice, during school, during really anything, she would be complaining. There was gossip. She would gossip about other people. She would make excuses for things. She just didn't have the best mentality. And because I was with her so much, I started to adopt that. I didn't even recognize, like, I remember a point where I'm like, who am I? Like, I didn't even recognize who I was. I started to complain about things. I started to have a bad attitude at practice. I started to think that like the practices were whack and everything was whack and that person was whack. And if I'm honest, I've never really been that person. And sometimes in our lives, it's crazy how when we're around certain people, when we're listening or watching certain things, how we might not even recognize the person that we see in the mirror. We might wake up one day and actually be somebody completely different, somebody that we don't recognize. And we like to think, oh, like I'm strong. I just hang out with them, but it's just for fun. I'm just dating that person, but it's just for fun. Not thinking that it's going to have a profound effect on our life. But that's not how you work, and that's not how your heart works. Your heart is vulnerable to the things that you digest, the people that you hang out with, the media that you consume. I don't care how high you think your discipline might be. We're all susceptible to that. And I definitely was. I didn't recognize who I was. I was dating people. I have no idea why. Like, I look back and I'm like, what was I doing? What did I see in that person? And I'm hesitant to blame it all on her. You know, there was other people and it was just all my fault that I was hanging out with that weren't the best crowd. And I remember everything. This sounds so dramatica. I remember everything in my life falling apart. I remember having a bad relationship with my coach. I remember my romantic relationship going awry. I remember not having good friends. Like, it was just all very surface level. I remember my insecurity was like bad. Everything in my life was just like, and then I remember people saying rumors about me where I'm like, where did they get that from? And it's easy for us in those moments to feel like the victim and to feel like those things are out of our control, but it is in our control. And in that case, it completely wasn't my control. All of those things were happening to me because I wasn't being selective about the people I was hanging out with and the negativity that I was letting enter into my ear gates and my eye gates. And I woke up one day and I was a completely different person. I want to say I almost got kicked off the team. I wasn't in a good relationship with my teammates or coach, and I had to literally completely remove myself from that person to start picking up the pieces and being myself again. And it took that immediate and some would say like extreme act, but I literally told her, I can't text you, I can't call you, I can't hang out with you anymore because everything in my life has been affected by it. And again, it wasn't so much her fault as much as mine because I was choosing to hang out with her. So all of us are susceptible to the temptation of gossiping and negativity and putting people down and complaining and having a bad attitude. And you know what the bad thing is we already have that inside of us. Most of us, we don't want to wake up to go to work. We don't want to have to tackle the problems in the day. We already feel like it's so easy to complain. So when we're around somebody who's complaining, gives us an excuse almost to do less or to be less, we latch onto it and we're like, yeah, look, it's okay for me to justify myself for not wanting to push myself more because that person's doing it and that person is in agreement with me. It is toxic. It is detrimental to not be selective about the media that you consume and the people that you hang out with. So you have to be selective because nobody else is going to be selective for you. You and I are vulnerable to the negativity entering into our heart. So we have to guard it at all costs. I would challenge you to really look at, and I started to do this, the people that you're following on social media. Let's say you follow 800 people. Oh my gosh, that's great. But when you really think about it, do you have to follow every single one of those people? Let's say you have somebody, which you probably do, that you went to high school with. You know, that high school friend that you just kind of follow and you're like, yeah, we were like kind of cool. We had like pre-calculus together. We had like 1 or 2 classes together. They would help me with the homework. But do you have to know everything that's going on in that person's life if you haven't spoken to them in 4, 5, 6 years? You probably don't. So I truly believe that in terms of media and content and friends and everything, to simplify it. How can you simplify the people that you follow? Maybe, just maybe, you don't have to follow every single one of those high school friends. You don't have to follow every single one of those college friends. If you're cool with them, if you still hang out with them, that's a completely different story. But if you can't be vulnerable with that person, if you haven't seen them in 4 or 5 years, maybe question why you follow them and if you still need to. And lastly, in conclusion, above all else, guard your heart. It is where all your dreams, your desires, and your passions live. It is that part of you that connects with God and other people. So above all else, protect it. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.
We stood close in the glittering lights. Sure ditch past